Okay, Clio. Sorry about the difficult technical difficulties. If you want to send like an invite now, then I can. Awesome. Okay. View.
Hi.
Hey, I'm so sorry about all that.
Oh, it's okay.
Um,
I have no idea how to do it either. Like I've never done like an Instagram live, so.
I think because I was trying to record this so we could put it up later on YouTube or something, but I think that was actually causing it to glitch or something.
Oh no.
So this will be like a watch for 24 hours and then it's gone thing.
That's fine.
Um,
I don't mind.
but yeah, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, okay. I was just yeah, it's so typical that when you're trying to set something up and make it like run smooth, it won't. Like everything's against you. But yeah, apart from that, all good. Yeah. Um, are you drawing or are you just gonna chat? It's cool either way.
I am drawing, but it's yeah, I don't know. It's like with a light box, so it's kind of
Oh, that's what I'm doing too.
yeah. It'll kind of just reflect off my glasses, probably kind of
Yeah,
odd.
it
Yeah.
gives me a
That's
glow.
my one.
Awesome. Um, yeah, I used to draw with a light box like 10 years ago, and then it broke, and so I've just never got around to it again. And then I got a hold of this like 6 months ago, and it's just so they're so helpful in just it makes me less precious about the page, like because if I fuck up one part, I can just redo that panel.
Yeah, I use them all the time just because it's like just way easier just to trace like a sketch and like refine it than just
Yeah,
drawing straight away. And like
yeah,
I'm really particular with like how I want my pages to look, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like an
yeah.
easier way to kind of make the composition nicer.
Hmm.
And also
Yeah,
like if like say a pen or something looks like horrible and like smudges, you can kind of just like redo it.
yeah, yeah. It just I feel like even though I usually do like two or three drafts before the final thing, which I think is I don't know how many people do that, but I actually find it still faster doing that and having a light box. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about your comics, not about light boxes. So I've been reading a bunch of your stuff over the last few days to kind of remind myself about it all. Um, So yeah, the first thing I was thinking about just a couple of minutes ago is um, all of Damp Candies have such like a clear design to them.
Yeah.
Like straight away, like most people's first comic, they haven't really kind of worked out like their logo, and you seem to have you kind of know what you're doing. Um, were these your first mini comics you've ever made, or do you have like stuff before that you don't really put out there anymore?
Well, I studied graphic design like before, so I think like that kind of background kind of helps with like if you kind of branding like a comic series.
Mhm.
But like I have made comics before which have been like horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of knew I wanted it to be a series anyway, so I wanted it to kind of have like a formula for them so that they all kind of like match up because it's I think with that it's like inevitable that like your style's gonna change, like the way you draw and like you're just gonna develop. So at least if there's like that kind of guideline, it kind of still looks like a series, like despite like obviously like improving.
Yeah, and they're all standalone, which I like because they definitely have a flow and a similar feel and vibe. But I'm always worried about I do like a mini series called I Will Suck, but it's not a continuing story. They're all standalones, and I always worry if people see, oh, it's only issue five is on the shelf, they're not going to pick it up because they think maybe they're jumping halfway into a story. Whereas I kind of like yours because they have their own title, and then just at the back if you're a nerd like me and wants to make sure you're kind of collecting everything, you'll usually say like issue 4 at the back of them.
Yeah, I kind of like I did used to buy like comic series when I was younger,
Hmm.
and it would be a thing where like I wouldn't have certain issues, and I kind of
Yeah.
like obviously you've never like finished the story or like whatever or just like missed like
Hmm.
a chunk. And I kind of felt with these like if you put like a number on the front, it does actually seem off-putting to people who are buying it
Yeah.
because they will think like they're missing something. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know, maybe it should be a bit clearer in some bits about like that they're standalone other than just having it on my website that they're kind of self-contained
Mm.
stories.
I don't know because there's a few people I follow who do that where it's like Summer Pierre does Paper Pencil Life and they're numbered, but they totally you don't have to get issue 1 to understand issue 6 or anything like that. So yeah, I think yeah, they totally work as they do. And I also kind of like the idea of giving everything like its own title as well. It feels a bit more, I don't know, like at the very least just interesting instead of just being like I will suck 7, I will suck 8. So I think I'm actually going to stop once I hit 10, which will be the next one. Um, okay, I have a list of like very vague questions,
Okay.
but I'll try and keep it more conversation-esque. Um, yeah, so what, so you said you were doing graphic design before. So what kind of art were you mostly into before making comics? Like, were you doing like just paintings or like just illustrations, or what
Yeah,
made you kind
like
of go into comics?
I've always liked comics. Like,
Hmm.
I used to like buy them when I was like a teenager at like Traveling Man at like the one that you work at, which is quite funny. I used to like go to like comic evenings there as well and like make
Yeah,
horrible,
yeah,
horrible comics. But like on, I kind of knew that I wanted to be an illustrator, so I did the degree um, like Central St. Martin's graphic design
right.
because you could have different pathways, but I knew obviously illustration is like nice, but I wanted to learn more about graphic design and how that can actually like help your
Hmm.
practice, like by understanding like I don't know, type and stuff or the importance of that kind of thing. But like on the course, I don't know, it's a bit of I don't know, like having a BA graphic design and then just painting all through the course.
Yeah, yeah,
So I kind of just did like loads of weird character stuff. I think I did
yeah.
like loads of paintings of people, but like yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really like I made one comic on the course and like
Mm.
I did like book binding and stuff and made kind of really
Right.
loose like sequential art, but
Yeah,
it was like a bit more experimental than it would be like a finished kind of product that you'd want to sell.
yeah. Are
Yeah.
you, I'm curious, like, are you grateful for that time, like going to uni, or because I know like a bunch of people like look back at uni and just regret doing the whole thing. Like, do you think there's things you took through doing basically art school, like that you appreciate or not?
No, like I really appreciate the experience I had.
Hmm.
I think it was really bizarre though because like I'm from the north and then
Hmm.
like going to like a university that has like really like wealthy students and this
Yeah,
being actually in the bracket of like you're actually quite poor in comparison to everybody
yeah, yeah.
else and like having financial limitations. That was like
Hmm.
kind of an interesting experience, I guess. But then obviously you can like work through it and like that doesn't necessarily kind of affect like some final outcomes depending on what you do. So like
Hmm.
obviously I don't know if you're doing like comics or like painting, it's I don't know. But like I did really appreciate like being or like learning how to be kind of critical of your work
Yeah.
and like hearing what other people think and obviously because it's such a broad course like like
Yes.
I'm still friends with like all my friends from the course, so everyone has like
Wow.
interesting kind of feedback, and
Huh.
everyone does like completely different
Yeah.
practices. So like none of my friends do comics at all, everyone's like
yeah,
graphic designers or like film people. But it is
wow,
like interesting to kind of get like perspectives not from your field of the stuff
yeah,
that you do. But yeah, I don't regret it.
cool.
It is like a very weird time because
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're really insecure and you're trying to like figure out like what you're wanting to do with your
yeah.
stuff. And like I kind of at the end of it, I didn't have a portfolio that I was actually proud of. I kind of
Hmm.
felt that it was kind of going into the right direction that I wanted to do. But I kind of knew that I had to spend like a few years working on that to actually want to push my stuff to
Yeah,
other people. Whereas like I think a
yeah,
lot of people like afterwards they kind of felt like that was their portfolio and they're gonna like approach people for jobs and stuff. I don't know. I kind of feel with like comics and probably with like a lot of other
hmm,
professions, it's one of those things you have to spend a long time working at before you figure it out, like for
yeah,
yourself because it's such a
totally.
personal.
I was actually just watching a Studio Ghibli film. I think it's like the one before The Cat Returns. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called, but there's someone in it basically saying that like they're looking at this rock with crystals in it, and like you can just see the light of the crystal shining through the rock, and they want to be a writer, and they're kind of saying like you have to slowly work at like basically getting this crystal out of the rock. In kind of regards to like being a writer, it's like your first book or like your first time writing anything is never going to be like incredible, and it's constantly like a learning craft. Like who's really going to look back on stuff from 5 or 10 years ago and be like super proud of it?
I know.
um um but like I mostly yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about this one. Is it vegan other dimensions? But I want to be very like respectful because it's totally. I wanted to ask how much of your stuff is autobiographical versus like because I know you give other people similar names to you in some of your stuff, like Chloe. Like, yeah, how much of your stuff is autobiographical, and how do you feel about something like this being out there where it's because it's so like I don't know, like I've been thinking about writing some stuff about my parents um for years now, and I still don't know how I would actually put that out there because it feels like, some things are just like
It's quite
you never,
loaded if you do it about
yeah,
family.
yeah,
I think a lot of my work, like, I think before I used to say it wasn't like autobiographical, but it obviously is. I guess you
hmm,
write about what you know, or like that's kind of how you could like make something that seems kind of, I don't know, or like
hmm.
yeah, I guess a lot of it is like from me. With the one where it's like Chloe, I can't remember if I did that as like a joke because I
I
did
think,
actually. That was like a real thing, like selling socks, and I did
yeah,
use the name Chloe for
yeah,
that. But like, because I didn't want them to know it was me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then, like, a lot of people call me Chloe anyway for some reason, so I thought it
Okay.
was kind of funny. But
Um,
I think with
I'm,
like writing about like my parents, I don't think that they actually know that. So,
yeah,
but then also with like that story about like my mum, she is a writer anyway, so like she writes stuff about my family and like my background. So I feel like they can't really be annoyed because
yeah,
they already did that. And like
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like I don't use like my full name for like illustration stuff,
yeah.
but then like they've actually referenced like the name that I go by for like illustration, so that's kind of annoying. But
Oh wow.
so I guess it's like it does prove that it is real, like the stuff
Hmm.
that I've written about with like is it vague in other dimensions? But it's kind of like I wanted
Yeah,
like distance, but
that's the thing is like when I started doing all this stuff, um, is I was always like, um, it's nice to kind of use almost like a stage name because then people can't look too far into your history and stuff like that. And
yeah,
um, like if I put this stuff out about my parents, there's like articles online about it, and that, yeah, there's something nice about just drawing yourself as a cartoon with like a stage name. Um, which is now actually my real name. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's I love all this stuff. Like I love really real stuff. I know like we're big fans of Simon Hanselman, and
Yeah.
he's always saying like he doesn't like twee art, like he doesn't find it honest and stuff like that. So um, like I feel like a lot of your comics have this sense of like unease and worry. Um, And I really like that. Like I'm always saying to people, I hate small talk. Like I'd rather get to the kind of real nitty gritty of the conversation. Um, yeah. Do you feel? So I'm going to read like a direct question, so I can be a
Okay,
bit
yeah.
more articulate. Um, so was it therapeutic to write? Is it vague? And how did you put all that work of such like a big story and like every meaning of the word into such a short comic because it's so concise and to the point. But it, like I said before, I feel like it could be like, like a graphic novel. Do you feel like how did you have to like re-edit and re-edit that story a lot, or did it just write itself?
I think it kind of wrote itself. I think because of like the nature of like obviously having like a parent that's quite out there. It's all kind of ridiculous, but it's all kind of true. So it's that thing
Mhm.
of like if you spent years kind of thinking about like your childhood and like growing up and just weird things that they've said, like
Mhm.
I've kind of it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like I do want to make like a an actual like graphic novel about it. But I think I
Yeah.
like wait till I'm better to do that because it
Okay.
is like quite a complicated thing.
Yeah.
And
It
yeah, I
just
kind of want to wait until like all of the books from my mum are out and then read that and then because like I weirdly learned a lot from those about my family that I wouldn't have
yeah.
known. So I guess it's kind of interesting to kind of see their perspective like completely undiluted.
So obviously without like saying your mum's name or anything, what's usually like her books about, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so she's made like a trilogy about her lives in Atlantis.
Okay.
That she has a special mission from Jesus to heal
Yeah.
people.
Okay.
So it's about like all these like past lives that she's had. Um, yeah,
Okay.
and like I don't know the full thing of the books because they're not out yet, like all of them. But like from what I've read, it's just like her like previous lives that she's like talking about.
Hmm. Yeah. It's like a world I just don't know anything about, and um, yeah, it's just interesting because you're both writers, and you're writing about it from like, she's writing it clearly like my stuff is like powerful and has
Yeah.
meaning, and you're writing like this traumatized me. Is that fair? Like to say, like,
Yeah, yeah. I think like with my siblings, like they've all had like therapy about it because it is like really intense. I think growing up with like a
mhm,
completely different uh, kind of way of that you've learned about the world.
mhm,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's not something that everyone else agrees with. So like I guess when I was younger, some people's parents wouldn't let their children like hang out with me because of my parents.
yeah,
Like that they basically feed you this like really like bizarre perspective of things that make you sound
mhm,
like a complete oddball when you're like younger.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's weird things when I look back like years later, and I'm like, oh yeah, like my friends would always come over to my house, but I don't think their parents would ever invite me over. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It's such a weird thing being a kid, and you kind of see like you see everything, but it's I don't know. It's like watching like a kind of kids film like Shrek as a kid, and you laugh at a joke, but when
Yeah.
you're 20, you laugh at the same joke for a totally different reason. Um, and you just yeah, you see conversations that your parents had through a totally different lens.
Yeah, I think when you
Um,
like been raised that way, you think it's like normal because obviously your parents is like how you
yeah.
learn about like the world. And
Hmm.
then like you'll get to a point where you kind of figure out that isn't how things are or like
Yeah.
when you kind of get to a point when you like understand things in like a different way. I think that's quite strange.
Yeah. Well, I love your work and I love like um the stories that you're writing. Like I think there's totally nothing like it in the UK right now. I know the scene, like for me, it always feels so small and like there's only like a few UK cartoonists that like I'm really kind of following their work. But yeah, I was gonna ask what's your like process for a page? Like how many kind of drafts do you go through and do you do anything on the page before you like scan it in and color it or
It's quite like a, I think when I tell my process to my friends, they just think it's a really ridiculous, like it can be more efficient than it actually is. But
okay.
like, if it was all like for me, like digital, then I don't like, I actually really enjoy drawing and like the
Hmm.
art of having like a really nice page. So like, I obviously have like a really, uh, probably annoying process for other people. So like I like draw everything really small, like
Yeah,
thumbnail like a whole page, and then I scan it in, and then I have like a page on like Photoshop. So then I
right.
put all the composition in it, and I put all the type in it, and then I print that A3, and it's really loose, and then I
Okay.
redraw it in pencil, and then I ink it. Like I have some here from
Jesus.
like this looks so vague, like. Like this will be something that I do that's so loose. Like it doesn't
Wow.
make sense. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll like redraw it. I don't know if I have. I don't think I have that page. But then
Okay.
I'll do like the finished one, which is like that. So it'll change quite a lot.
Yeah. So are those, yeah, I was gonna ask, like, is that kind of chalk effect? Like, is that like a Photoshop texture, or are you actually like rubbing charcoal on the page?
I think with the old ones, I think I just had like a document of textures. So I would
Right.
clone stamp them.
Okay.
But I in the like one that I'm currently working on, I just use like a pentel brush pen, and like when
Mhm.
they're running out, I just kind of smudge it
Mm,
as like a texture. But then I do have like texture brushes in Photoshop, like the
yeah.
silk screen ones. So
Right.
if I'm rissographing them, then at least that kind of can add like another kind of layer onto
Yeah,
it
yeah, totally.
to like mix the
With
colors.
the golden apple tree, like you'll see on some pages there's this kind of like charcoal effect and I can't do anything like digitally, like I still don't have Photoshop and I it's something I always want to learn. It's always like on my plan for next year and next year. But that I just kind of rubbed almost like you would like a pool cube or a pool stick or whatever, and you rub like the chalk on the top. I just rub the chalk into like a ball of tissue and then just gently rub it on the page to get that effect. Um, because I'm just very there's I don't know, like even on the cover of that, like I just feel like there's so many layers behind layers behind layers like going on.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to like roughly finish a page?
I think it depends like how motivated I feel.
Mm,
Like before in like lockdown, I was like working on this comic that I'm doing at the moment called Sour Pickles, and I kind of was gonna release it for LCAF.
mm-hmm.
So I kind of had like a time period that I knew I had to do like 80 pages
Oh,
by May and then color it all. But
wow.
so I was doing like 5 pages every weekend, and I kind of like that was like really quite a lot.
Yeah.
But now I just like maybe spend like a day on a page and then kind of
Oh,
look at it and it's like really simple and kind of don't really understand how it took that long.
mm,
But yeah, I think it kind of depends really. I think with digital coloring, it's kind of annoying. It takes
yeah.
ages, especially in Photoshop with like all the different layers. And then like I kind of shift things a bit so it looks like offset printing. So it's kind of
Mm,
each thing you have to do individually instead of I don't know. But then again, like some of my
mm.
friends are like really intense Photoshop people, and they think that my method of it is not as good as it could be.
Like you could shortcut it in some way.
Yeah. there's
Yeah,
definitely ways to like make it like more efficient. But like
yeah.
if you don't use Photoshop, what do you use for your layouts?
I just oh God. So I mean, honestly, like I've been doing comics now for 10 years and I still don't know like what's the right method and like process. So again, like every time I do a comic, it really changes. But um, I decided for the ones I'm doing this year to just get some of this like graph paper and then just measure out the panels,
Mm.
and then with the light box, um, just do just with the light box go over like a bunch of pages, like do 40 pages like ahead of time. A few times the panels like break into like a wider page or anything. Um, and then it kind of depends, like so yeah, this one was just I'm so bad at doing this on the camera. Um, so from that one, that's what's become like all of these. It's like the exact same dimensions because I thought like it takes so long to draw comics. The
Yeah,
idea of measuring out every single individual page versus just doing that and kind of like again, I always want that like hand line on it, so
yeah.
it's never like 100% like um I always say his surname wrong, but it's never perfect like Adrian Tamines or
Oh, I
Tamina.
think I looked into it and like I think it's like Tamina.
Tamina.
I can't remember. Like I think I looked into like some like YouTube video of him and
I should just listen to a podcast that he's on or something.
yeah, I mean I could be
Um,
wrong. I'm really bad at like pronouncing like names. But yeah,
yeah,
stuff is like really, really precise. It's like I think he had like an exhibition of all of his pages from one of his comics and it's just like really, really, really neat. And I think
yeah.
he draws them actually just the size that they are, whereas like I have to make mine bigger and then I reduce it because of like I don't know, I
I
want there to
think
be more
I'm
detail.
mostly I mean, yeah. I want to ask also like who were your influences and stuff like that to get you like who do you most like to read in comics? Because I think mine was probably more like Jeffrey Brown, and I know that he always draws to size, and I found that a bit less intimidating. To just kind of be like, it is what it is. Like I don't have to
Mm.
mess about on like computers or anything. Um, but yeah, who are your like? Who do you kind of like look up to in comics, and even if it's just to read or like you kind of like aspire to kind of be like or anything?
I don't know if I aspire to be like anyone. I
Mhm.
guess because everyone's work is like completely different. I think
Yeah,
like maybe I don't know. I read a lot of Simon Hanselman. Like I really love their stuff.
yeah,
And like even though it's kind of ridiculous, I guess I do enjoy that it is also like semi autobiographical. Like
yeah,
from um like listening to loads of his interviews, you can kind of piece
hmm
together that like a lot of the characters are kind of based off things from their actual life.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, like I love Adrian Tamino. Like their stuff, like Killing and Dying is like one of my favorite comics, and
yeah. It's
I used
incredible.
to get like Optic Nerve, but again, that's one of those comics where I had like a few issues of it, and I didn't really finish that. And it was like only rare that you would see like a copy of it.
I mean, they're all put into like graphic novels now anyway. Like Summer Blonde, Killing and Dying, Sleepwalk, I think. But
Yeah.
I'm still missing like five of the 14 issues. But yeah. What else was I? Oh, yeah. So, um, the comic that you're working on now is going to be like 80 pages.
Yeah.
How long? I'm always interested in how long cartoonists have had like an idea kind of like fermenting in their brain until they decide like, okay, now I'm actually gonna like start that project. How long has that been in the works? What's it about?
Um, I've had it like in the works for like a while. Like I wrote about it for like a residency that I did like maybe a few years ago.
Hmm.
where I got to develop it. So that was like the only time where I got to draft it out. But like I think at that point I think I only draft I thought I'd finished it and it was like 40 like something pages.
Yeah.
But then I started like properly working on it and then realized that like there's a lot more I could include. Or just like I don't know. I think it's like a weird kind of thing. So it's mostly about final year of university.
Hmm.
Um well it is about that and about some things that have happened. But I think I'm really bad at talking about that project.
Yeah.
So I kind of like when I finish it, I kind of want to give it to like one of my friends to read and for them to be like, it's about this because I think it's kind of because it's like
Yeah.
really personal. I think it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
write a synopsis of it that is, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I feel totally that way with I'm gonna keep hyping your comics on screen. Um, but yeah, like I feel like with all of like the damp candies, they are like I could kind of be like, this one is about this and this one's about this. Whereas
Yeah,
I feel like, is it vague? The thing I like about it so much is like it's actually really hard to like my partner read it last night and I was like, can you kind of tell me in a nutshell what you think it's about? And she was like, yeah, like it's just about so much and it all feels like a dream as well. Like yeah, so I can't imagine what like writing an 80-page comic must feel like because that's such a huge process. Like not that many people get around to doing that, especially like self-publishing it. Um, but yeah,
I don't think it's like obviously it takes like a lot of time, but I think I kind of separate them into different short stories that all kind of form like the narrative of it, like a different part of it. So I don't think it's as daunting as like doing 80 pages.
um,
So like with that, is it's vague in other dimensions. That's like three short stories, like really, really short like
yeah,
stories. Um, and then you kind of just like put it all together. And I kind of wanted to do that with like Damp Candy, like where I made like 10 of them and then make it into a big comic.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's like a work in progress on. Like I kind of see that series as just like getting better at making comics.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, with 80 pages, I don't know. I think when it's like stuff from your own life experience, it's actually quite quick to write.
Hmm.
But then it's trying to make it, I don't know, easy for someone else to follow. Because the problem
Yeah.
is if you're writing it from your own like experience, it's like kind of maybe hard to distance yourself from the story to see if actually
Yeah.
like someone else can understand it. Whereas like I know like all of this information, but does someone reading it who knows like nothing about that time
Yeah.
like obviously like not many people do at all do they get it and like do they find the
Yeah.
same bits funny like you need to
I
kind of give enough of
yeah.
like a background in something to like do that.
I think that's totally why like like thank God for like editors because you need that other person to kind of be like, hold on, like you can kind of I don't know, it's like retelling someone a story that happened to you at 7, but not them not knowing like the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a real struggle, that kind of thing. I've attempted bigger projects before, and they've just kind of been put on the back burner. Like I wanted to do this comic about basically like all my teenage summers, but in one.
yeah,
Um, but maybe almost make it like it's just like a weekend, and it's all those like insane things that happen to you in summer as a teenager. Um, and yeah, I'm just like that's I'm not that brave yet to kind of challenge that kind of thing. Um,
yeah, that's quite a
yeah,
lot though like if it's all the different summers and tying everything in so it kind of works.
yeah. Um, okay, let me have a little look. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time as well because I think when this ends, it just suddenly is like 10, 9, 8, 7.
Oh really?
Um, I think so. Let me
Okay.
really quickly check the time.
Oh, I can tell you the time. I think it's
Oh,
like quarter to or like
cool.
2:42.
Awesome. Yeah. So Yeah, there's a bunch of questions I've already asked you, which I already know some of the answers to because we talk a bit about our
Yeah.
comics anyway. Um, so in terms of being like self-published, and um, I know this one, Sensitive Bee, is about like working for a shitty company and doing your illustrations, um, which is such a good read, and it's so infuriating and funny at the same time. And I really want to know like who this guy is. But yeah, how much of like do you work part time to kind of like is the comics more like a side thing, or do you still get illustration work occasionally, or
I work full time, which it can be kind of maddening. So I do that full time, and then I spend my weekends making comics. But like when I get freelance work, I basically have to then go home and then like work until like midnight on it, which can
well,
be like really intense. But I guess I kind of enjoy doing that. Or like
yeah,
I obviously must enjoy like working on comics and stuff to kind of sacrifice my like personal time.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I think it'd be really weird. Like I'm not in like a position, and I kind of when I think about what I would like to be when I'm older, I kind of feel it's a bit like unpredictable to be just like a comic
Hmm.
artist and like be able to live off that.
Yeah.
And then I also like just having a job that's like separate from that because like, if you just worked on your own illustrations all the time, you'd just be like
Hmm.
by yourself and like
Yeah.
you wouldn't really interact with that many people and it would just be kind
Yeah.
of a bit strange.
Yeah, totally. And I think you can't really know if like so many people make art, and obviously like you go to a lot of the conventions, um and everyone that's like their holiday for the year where they're kind of like pushing their comics and then have to go back to work, and it's like so few make it over that hill into like, oh, thank God I've been like published by like Fantagraphics or something like that. Um, yeah. So I was going to talk, obviously, there's no conventions really going on this year,
No.
um, which I know we've talked about like a bit, and some of the other reasons and whatever. Do you have like a favorite kind of comic convention that you've been to, or like, is there a favorite kind of publisher out in that world that you really like? There's one that I really like that I think was actually at Alcaf last year, Piao Studios.
Oh yeah, they make really good comics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
got
make
such a
they're
nice
like
feel
really
to it.
fun. They had like a scratch
Yeah,
and sniff one, I think. Or like one that yeah, I don't know which one that is.
yeah. It's like a yellow cover, I
I'm not
think.
sure. But
Um,
they're really they're a really cool publisher. They're usually at the ones that I go to. Yeah, they're usually at LCAF. But yeah, I really like LCAF. It's
yeah.
like five. It's not even 5 minutes away from my house. It's like
Oh
literally two
wow,
roads away. So it's
wow.
like the only kind of illustration comics event that I've ever done where I haven't hurt myself carrying all my stuff, and I
Yeah.
haven't had to like wake up at like 6 a.m. to like get trained somewhere.
Mhm.
But no, they're always really fun, and like they usually have like a really good program of events. But like obviously, if you're there, you can't really go off from your table to attend those events.
Yeah.
But
I I totally went last year, like I guess like riding off the wave of my friend CJ who does Black Lodge Press. Um, they, yeah, they can like do that and like make some money and stuff. Whereas I took like the golden apple tree there, and like, yeah, I was like, I'll split the table costs with you, CJ. And like after the end of the day, CJ was like, just don't worry about it. Just buy me like a burger on the way home. Like I did terrible, but I totally went there really like more just to look at people's comics. I think I
it's
would
pretty
find
good.
that, yeah, I would find that so hard to just work at the stall, and not be able to like really kind of like like check out everyone's comics. 'Cause it's such a huge range and it's so cool, and I feel like so much of that stuff is only in America or Canada. It feels like most of the time.
Yeah, Well, I did like Comic Arts Brooklyn last winter, and that was really,
Mhm.
really fun because it was loads of comic book artists and like illustrators that like I haven't seen in like the thing. No.
I think it's caught
Yeah,
up.
it was like a really cool fair. It was like huge. It was like way bigger than Alcaf, and it was like really interesting to see a different scene in like a
Mm.
yeah different part of the world because I only ever do like English ones.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's like a big leap to kind of do that because yeah, like I've heard like like big artists kind of going to conventions and not being able to even like break even and stuff like that. And I've had like an offer from a friend before to I can't even remember what it was. It was some like Canadian convention, and they were like, "We'll put you up and stuff like that, and try and pay for your travel." And I was just like, "It's." I would be going totally like selfishly, just as like a free ride because I wouldn't. I just know like my stuff doesn't really work well in conventions.
I think it's quite common though for some people not to break even,
hmm
which is
Yeah,
like it's kind of one of those things where obviously depending on certain people's like privileges, they're able to kind of do all of those things
yeah,
and without getting like the massive like financial hit of like yeah.
yeah,
I mean even self-publishing is really expensive to like make your own books and if you like do certain print methods it's gonna like cost a lot. So like that's why I have to have like a full-time job to do it because
yeah,
otherwise there'd be like no way like
yeah,
I'd be able to like fund any of that stuff without actually just working full time. And
yeah.
even like going to like Brooklyn Comic Arts Festival, like that like I kind of knew I would never break even from that because
hmm
the like flights and like
Yeah,
traveling and stuff. But like I kind of saw it as like an opportunity just to like have like a holiday and then make money and
yeah.
then uh like look at loads of other people's things and see it as like a research kind of trip.
hmm Did you
Um,
go to like Desert Island Comics?
I actually didn't that time, but I've been there
Mm.
before. Like it's super like cute. It's like a really yeah nice like comic shop.
It's always like, I mean, there's so many that are on my list to check out, but it just always looks so fucking cool. And they only have like, it feels like they have 1% of their stock on their website. Um, and yeah, it just looks like this treasure trove of just like amazing comics. Um, in the UK, do you feel like, um, since you've started to like make more comics and like go to conventions and stuff, do you feel like you've kind of met other cartoonists and kind of got to know them better, or is it still quite like a like your friends from art school? Does
Hmm.
that make sense? Like, or do you
Yeah, I
feel like
mean,
you've got to know people and you still are friends and stuff like that?
there's like people that like you see like all the time at those like events, and like
hmm
that's nice. But I'm also like not really that outgoing to like approach people and be like
hmm
that you want to be friends or like whatever. So it's like a slow burner, I think,
Yeah,
that stuff. But
I
like it
feel like
does
that's
usually feel at like those conventions that like everybody's kind of friends with each other. So it's a bit like for me, feels a bit
yeah,
strange. Like I usually just go to these things with like my sister. So I don't know whether I just kind of isolate myself by me and her just like chatting all the time.
right,
But
right,
yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. I feel like the a big part of the kind of comics world is like we're all shy introverts who
Yeah.
totally like love everyone's work and stuff like that, but that's really hard to kind of um actually talk past more than like a screen on on a live Instagram.
Yeah,
Um
I always feel like a bit like embarrassing when I tell people that I really like their stuff because it's like
yeah.
they don't know who I am, just like a stranger like coming up to them. But I guess it's like a nice thing. But I think
It
I'm too
totally, yeah.
I feel a bit strange just being like, yeah, I don't know.
No, it's like it does feel like you feel like the weirdo doing that, but like who isn't gonna love that to hear someone say like I love your stuff? Like the only whatever like good part of outcast for me with my comics was someone I think sat kind of near you. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but like they got Golden Apple Tree and read it, and I could like see them reading it, and then came over and they were so like blown away by it, and I was like, did like CJ pay you to like say good things about this? And it was like the highlight. So I definitely think people should do that more. I know when you were at Traveling Man, and I was like, oh my God, it's Clio. Like, I want to ask you a million questions about your comics. I was like, oh my God, this is like such a weirdo thing to do. But also like we're all like I work in a comic book shop. I love comics, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of strange though, because like I guess for me, I just always post stuff online, so I don't really interact with people other than at like comic fairs. So it is really nice to see people's reactions to things, especially if it's like, because I also make like smaller things like stickers and like prints.
Hmm.
So it's nice to actually see like reactions to people because you just
Yeah.
spend, you're like, or like for me, I make all my stuff in my room, just like by my computer. So I
Yeah.
never really see anyone who isn't my friend's reactions. So when it's
Yeah.
general public, it's like,
It's a weird one because people it's like music. It's such a people take this stuff home and listen to it in their bedrooms or read it in their bedrooms, and maybe you'll get like a passing comment online saying like it was good, but you never really know kind of I don't know, it's like you spend 100 hours making a comic for someone to be like, that was good. And you're like, but did all that work kind of make sense to you? I guess what we were talking about earlier, like if you're
yeah.
doing a story about your life. Um,
But I think
so
like comics though, it's like you're always gonna spend more time making it than like somebody actually spends reading it, which
yeah,
is like
totally.
something that takes like 100 hours to just be flicked through in like 3 minutes
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Um, so with the next comic, you're thinking of actually now doing it in like two parts, right? With
Yeah.
Sour Pickles. Um, when do you think like the first is that too early to ask? Like when do you think the first one would be out or
Well, I'm only doing it as like a two-part because I was quoted something ridiculous about how much it would cost to like
hmm
print, and like I don't have that budget. So
yeah.
I thought it'd just be easier to stagger it and just do it as like two separate issues.
hmm
But because I originally wanted to do it as a digital print, and then I was just like also quoted something a lot for that, and I was
Wow.
thinking like if I'm gonna spend that much money, I may as well like have it as a printed
hmm
method that I really like, which
Yeah.
is Risograph,
Yeah.
instead of just like yeah, like a kind of slick digital one. I kind of want to play around with it like a bit more
Yeah.
with that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not at the point where I'm editing it yet, so I'm
hmm
just drawing it all. I don't know like when it will come out. Like originally I wanted it in June, but
hmm
like that would have been really rushed. So I guess now
Yeah.
I've got like a lot of time.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Um
I kind of
we
wanted to do it though where I've edited it all and then I just kind of send one to print and then like raise enough money to then get the other one printed and then release it that way.
yeah. Would you like we were talking about like PR studios, would you ever
Yeah.
kind of like pitch it to a publisher and be like, here's the first 20 pages, like do you want to put this out or something like that?
I'm really bad with that kind of stuff. I'm like, as a person, I like boundaries and like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to force myself onto people. So
hmm
like, which is like probably a terrible attitude to have for like any kind of creative stuff.
Pushing
I
your
feel like a lot of
work,
people
yeah.
have to be go-getters to like do that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like it when you make stuff and then sometimes people like pop up from like publishers saying that they're like watching what you're doing. So like they are like taking note at like
Yeah.
kind of your progress. I kind of feel like when you're at a point where this is maybe really negative perspective of it, but when you're at a point when your stuff is ready to be published by
Mm.
people, they will find you. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know like a bunch of the big publishers of the indie ones like Drawn and Quarterly,
Mm,
Fantagraphics have like a submission area on the website, but I've always thought like no one must check that. Like that's just them being polite, having that
It's
option on
not
their
even
website.
like that polite, that part of
Oh, really?
the website. It says like be prepared for it to be thrown in the bin.
No way. Oh my
Or
God.
like maybe, well, I think it's like
Something to that
no, it
effect.
is like maybe polite, but it's just like being very transparent, I guess, because they must get so many submissions
Yeah.
from people, and like maybe people want to get them back after. I think it's just to kind of
Mm.
cover maybe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like with like, is it vague in other dimensions? Like someone from like a publisher that I'd love to be published by, like bought it, which was like nice.
Hmm.
So it's nice to know that like kind of on some radar, but I think
Yeah.
it's like I
Yeah.
just feel like I have to do like so much more work and improving before I'd want to
Mm.
have something published because I think I'll
Yeah.
just hate like now like I don't know. You know when you
Yeah.
just look back at your old work and it's like you kind of see all the mistakes. I kind of don't think I'm at that point.
Yeah. No, I think that's like a really I think some people are just desperate to kind of like make stuff and it's kind of refreshing to hear like someone be like, this takes time because like getting better takes time. It's like
I don't know
learning
if
to
it's like
live
quite a
easily.
downtrodden perspective
I
because
don't know,
like
I think it sounds right, but I have a more like negative view as well.
yeah.
Um yeah. So yeah, this will be my last question because I think we're coming up to like an hour.
Okay.
Um Yeah, I always have a really long list that's unachievable of like comics that I want to make. And it's like I'll be 100 and still not finish them. Um, with like Sour Pickles, do you have like loose plans for things after that, or is it just kind of like you look at things one at a time? It's like Sour Pickles, once that's out of the way, I'll then start writing the next one, or
Yeah, I like there's quite a few that I want to do that I've kind of written out loosely like for future things. And
Mhm.
like I've drafted out like a comic and just haven't inked that because I was going to use it for something else, but then ran out of time. So like Sensitive Bee that was supposed to have two stories, but because
Oh, okay.
like the deadline because I was releasing that for the Brooklyn Comic Arts Festival thing. I kind of had to cut it so I could actually finish it. So
Right,
I
right.
just make it like just one story instead. But
Mhm.
no, there's like quite a few I want to do, but it's literally I feel I need to do some comics first and then get better. And then
Right.
do ones that I would really want to do, which are maybe a bit more complicated in
Yeah.
like storytelling and like skill.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that's smart. Like I know Noah Van Sciver's finally maybe like halfway through his huge graphic novel, Joseph Smith and His Mormons. And I know he attempted it like 7 years ago and he's like he's posted some of those pages and he's like, I wasn't ready yet as a cartoonist to draw this like epic big story yet.
Mm.
Um, because yeah, naturally, like I don't know, some stories work okay if you're not like kind of at the top of your game or whatever, or like closer up that hill. But I guess with like bigger stories, not just like in page count, but in material, like you need to kind of get there and like work on your craft more. So I think
Uh,
it's good that you're not rushing that because you would probably just hate it. You'd look back at it and be like, "Fuck!" Like I
yeah.
wasted a year on this. Yeah.
Especially if it's just like
Um,
more complicated and it's just like it maybe isn't that like maybe people wouldn't understand
mhm.
the story if it's like not at the point that kind of matches kind of yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
there's like a lot I want to do, but it's like finding time. Yeah.
yeah.
I think like
Especially
working
working
full
full
time as
time.
well, it's just like everything is quite a slow process.
Yeah.
Which is kind of good that I kind of know what I want to work on next. So like when I finish this comic, I know what I want to do is the next one already, and I kind of know what I want to do after that one as well.
Hmm.
There's like a
Cool.
lot.
Yeah. There's always a long list. Cool. Yeah, well, I'm gonna flash your comics on the screen once more. Um, so yeah, this one's the most recent one, right? Sensitive
Yeah.
B, um, about working for someone in Newcastle, I guess, because of
No, in
his.
London.
Oh, really? And he just
Yeah.
happened to use a Geordie fake
Yeah, no, he did
accent.
actually put on loads of different accents, but like because I grew up there, that's the easiest to like write. Where if you're reading it, it would sound like
Yeah,
you're a Geordie.
it's it's yeah, it's such a funny comic. I definitely think it's your most like humorous one.
Oh, thank you.
Um, but yeah, I mean they're all like sometimes like they're like creepy and gross and funny at the same time, all like kind of traumatizing and sad and funny at the same time. Like you
Yeah.
really hit that middle so well.
Oh, thank you.
Um, like Soiled Fantasies is so good.
Oh, thanks.
Is it Vague in Other Dimensions is like my comic of 2019. Um, and yeah, there's just a bunch more. So I'd really recommend people to check out your stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this weird little interview. It was really cool.
Thanks for asking. It's like very like strange on Instagram, but yeah, it's a fun chat.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited to see Sour Pickles when it comes out. Um,
Yeah, it'll probably be sometime at the end of the year, but
awesome.
I don't know. I guess like I'm not at a point where I can kind of set in my mind when it will be. I guess because we're all in like a really kind of precarious situation, it's kind of a bit weird thinking about something that's not really that necessary. Or
Yeah,
like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Honestly, like thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'll speak to you in a couple of days probably anyway. But
Okay.
yeah.
I don't
Awesome.
know how
Well,
you leave this actually.
I'll try and cut it off, but
Okay.
it's incredibly awkward the end of these, so I'll just try and make it quick and painless.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Speak to you soon. Bye.